Hello, and welcome to Lights Out with the Houston Public Library. I'm Miss Jolie, and today I will be reading The Robber Bridegroom, as told by the brothers Grimm. Once there was a miller who had one beautiful daughter. As she was grown up, he was anxious that she should be well married and provided for. He said to himself, "I will give her to the first of suitable man that comes who asks for her hand." Not long after, a suitor appeared, and as he appeared to be very rich, the miller could see nothing in him with which to find fault. He betrothed his daughter to him. But the girl did not care for the man, as a bride ought her bridegroom. She did not feel that she could trust him, and she could not look at him nor think of him without an inward shudder. One day he said to her, "You have not paid me a visit, although we have been betrothed for some time." "I do not know where your house is," she answered. "My house is out there in the dark forest," he said. She tried to excuse herself by saying that she would not be able to find her way there. Her betrothed only replied, "You must come and see me next Sunday. I have already invited guests for that day, and that you may not mistake the way, I will strew ashes along the path." When Sunday came and it was time for the girl to start, a feeling of dread came over her, which she could not explain, and that she might be able to find her path again, she filled her pockets with peas and lentils to sprinkle upon the ground as she went along. On reaching the entrance to the forest, she found the path strewn with ashes, and these she followed, throwing down some peas on either side of her at every step. She walked the whole day until she came to the deepest, darkest part of the forest, and there she saw a lonely house, looking so grim and mysterious that it did not please her at all. She stepped inside, but not a soul was to be seen, and a great silence reigned throughout. Suddenly a voice cried, turn back, young maiden fair! Linger not in this murderer's lair." The girl looked up and saw that the voice came from a bird hanging in a cage on the wall. Again it cried, turn back, young maiden fair! Linger not in this murderer's lair." The girl passed on, going from room to room, but the house was empty, and still she saw no one. At last she came to the cellar, and there was a very old woman who could not keep her head still. "Can you tell me," asked the girl, "if my betrothed lives here?" "Ah, you poor child," answered the old woman. "What a place for you to come! This is a murderer's den. You think yourself a promised bride, and that your marriage will soon take place, but it is with death that you will keep your marriage feast. Look, do you see that cauldron of boiling water I am obliged to keep on the fire? As soon as they have you in their power, they will kill you without mercy and cook you, for they are eaters of men. If I did not take pity on you and save you, you would die." Thereupon the old woman led her behind a large cask, which quite hid her from view. "Keep as still as a mouse," she said. "Do not move or speak, or it will all be over for you. Tonight, when the robbers sleep, we will flee together. Long have I been waiting for an opportunity to leave." The words were hardly out of her mouth when the godless crew returned, dragging another girl along with them. They were all drunk and paid no heed to her cries and lamentations. They gave her wine to drink, 3 glasses full, 1 of white wine, 1 of red wine, and 1 of yellow. And with that her heart gave way, and she died. They tore of her dainty clothing, laid her on a table, and cut up her beautiful body and sprinkled it with salt. The poor betrothed girl crouched trembling and shuddering behind the cask, for she saw what a terrible fate had been intended for her by the robbers. One of them now noticed a gold ring still remaining on the little finger of the murdered girl. As he could not draw it off easily, he took a hatchet and cut off the finger. But the finger sprang into the air, fell behind the cask, and landed right in the lap of the girl who was hiding there. The robber took a light and began looking for it, but he could not find it. "Have you looked behind the cask?" asked one of the others. But the old woman called out, "Come and eat your supper. Let the thing be until tomorrow. A finger will not run away." "The old woman is right," said the robbers, and they ceased looking for the finger and sat down. The old woman then mixed sleeping draught into their wine, and before long they were all lying on the floor of the cellar, fast asleep and snoring. As soon as the girl was assured of this, she came from behind the cask. She was obliged to step over the bodies of the sleepers who were laying close together, and every moment she was filled with renewed dread lest she may wake one of them. But God helped her, so she passed safely over them. Then she and the old woman went upstairs, opened the door, and hastened as fast as they could from the murderer's den. They found the ashes scattered by the wind, but the peas and lentils had sprouted and grown sufficiently from the ground to guide them in the moonlight along the path. All night long they walked, and in the morning they reached the mill. Then the girl told her father all that had happened. The day came that had been fixed for the marriage. The bridegroom arrived, and also a large company of guests, for the miller had taken great care to invite all of his friends and family. As they sat at the feast, each guest in turn was asked to tell a tale. The bride sat still and did not say a word. "And you, my love," said the bridegroom, turning to her, "is there a tale you know? Tell us something." "I will tell you of a dream then," she said. "I went alone through the forest and came at last to a house. Not a soul could I find within, but a bird that was hanging in a cage on the wall, and cried, 'Turn back, young maiden fair, linger not in this murderer's lair.' And again, a second time, it said these words. To her bridegroom she said, 'My darling, it is only a dream.' I went on through the house, from room to room, but they were all empty, and everything was so grim and mysterious. At last I went down to the cellar, and there sat a very, very old woman who could not keep her head still. I asked her if my betrothed lived here, and she answered, 'Ah, you poor child, you are come to a murderer's den. Your betrothed indeed lives here, but he will kill you without mercy, and afterwards cook and eat you.' To the bridegroom she said, 'It was only a dream, dear.' The old woman hid me behind a large cask, and secretly had she done this when the robbers returned home, dragging a young girl with them, and they gave her 3 kinds of wine to drink, white, red, and yellow, and with that she died. 'My darling,' she said to the bridegroom, 'it is only a dream.' Then they tore off her dainty clothing and cut her beautiful body into pieces and sprinkled salt upon it. 'My darling,' she said to the bridegroom, 'it is only a dream.' And one of the robbers saw that there was a gold ring still left on her finger, and as it was difficult to draw off, he took a hatchet and cut off the finger, but her finger sprang into the air and fell behind the cask and into my lap. And here is the finger with the ring." And with these words, the bride, drew forth the finger and showed it to all of the assembled guests. The bridegroom, who during the recital had grown deadly pale, up and tried to escape, but the guests seized him and held him fast. They delivered him up to justice, and he and all his murderous crew were condemned to death for their wicked deeds. The end. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again soon. Goodbye.